The Seattle Seahawks must rebound coming off a short week against the New York Giants. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. We're here on Saturday, and obviously we got a lot of college football in front of us, but really, if you're a Seahawks fan, you're probably already thinking about tomorrow afternoon hosting the New York Giants, trying to recover from the first loss of the Mike Macdonald era. So, definitely some stuff to talk about in this game. Definitely not anticipating the kind of game that we saw last year against New York necessarily. Definitely aware of some things that have changed. But, big picture, overall, you would certainly expect to come out with the win. The Giants, they've gone in the right direction in a couple of areas. I think that they are incrementally making steps in the right direction, but there is a fundamental problem with that Giants team that persists even into 2024. So, the first thing that stands out to you about this game would be the short week for the Seahawks versus the long week for the Giants, because the Giants last played Thursday, 10 days prior to this game. The Seahawks played the Monday, 6 days prior to this game. So, if that is going to be a thing, then maybe that shrinks the margin of this game a little bit. But there is a clear discrepancy in talent from one roster to the other. So I will address that. I will tell you right now that it exists. The Giants had more days of rest than the Seahawks going into this game. But you're playing at home. You're playing a team that just had to travel 3,000 miles to go from their home to your home. You should be able to get it done, right the ship, and then all hands on deck for Thursday night in a game that could result in you seizing control of the division for the first time in what feels like a while. So, we're going to go ahead and talk about what can be talked about with this Giants team, because I know that some people out there, you're already thinking about the Niners. I get it. You're thinking about Thursday night. You're thinking about that Niners team that looks vulnerable in a way they haven't looked vulnerable in a while. I get it. But do not underestimate the power of a team that desperately needs the win. So, that's another thing that I would point out about this game. The Giants at 1-3, having lost to the Vikings, having lost to the Commanders, having lost to the Cowboys. We're talking about 3 losses in the conference, 2 losses in their division. They need this. If they lose this game, it's pretty much over for them. It's over for not only the season, probably over for Daniel Jones, probably, well, I'll say maybe over for Brian Daboll, maybe even over for Joe Shane, who knows? But there is a real possibility that this game is going to be the nail in the coffin of this era of Giants football. So they're going to throw out everything they got trying to get this win. So don't sleep on that factor either. Do not underestimate a cornered animal, and that's exactly what the Giants are right now. But they just should not have the personnel that can stand up to a Seahawks team that, even in defeat last Monday night, showed you that they are headed in the right direction. They have a big talent advantage in a game like this. And quite simply, even with that desperation factor, you have to ask, what is this Giants offense going to do in this game? And let's start there. Giants offense, we're talking about a team with no number 1 receiver because Neighbors is out. Malik Neighbors missing this game with a concussion. And you got no number 1 running back. So you're talking about Daniel Jones, who is clearly a below average quarterback in the league right now, throwing the ball to some clearly below average receivers. You've got Wan'Dale Robinson, he's all right, I guess, but probably looks better than he is because he gets to play with a guy like Malik Neighbors taking all the defensive attention. You've got Jalen Hyatt, who has 0 catches so far this year and is looking like a day 2 disappointment. He was a relatively high draft pick not that long ago. You've got Darius Slayton, great example of a receiver that just hangs around and hangs around and hangs around forever because he's just competent enough to stay on the roster and just competent enough to get playing time, but you never really feel great about having him as one of your top receiving options. Like, what are we doing here? Bellinger at tight end, he's anonymous in this league right now. It's not a great era for tight ends as it is, and Bellinger is not helping push that argument the other way. So, not much in the receiving area. And you've got Tyrone Tracy at running back, who, good talent, I like him, capable of doing some good things, but Devin Singletary, despite the fumbling problem that he had, was actually pretty productive for this Giants team. So that is a big loss as well. So what do they do? What area of this Giants offense is going to be able to put the team on their back and say, it's okay, we got this? Yeah, you don't have your top receiver, who is, by the way, probably already a top 10 receiver in the NFL, and you don't have your top running back, but it's okay, we got this. I don't see it. I don't know how this Giants team scores. I don't know how they consistently move the ball. I don't know how they avoid turnovers. I don't know how they prevent the scenario of Daniel Jones having to force the ball into a super tight window many, many times on game day, including probably some reps to guys like Devin Witherspoon and Reek Woolen, elite cover corners, who, if you try to force it into a tight window on them, are probably going to make you really regret it. So, the running game's not going to save them. The only thing I can say about this Giants offense, and I will give them credit for this, their offensive line has come a long way, especially in pass protection. So, I'm not expecting some 11-sack atomic bomb like we had last year when we played the Giants. That pass protection has improved. They're going to have Andrew Thomas in this game, which they did not have last year. He's one of the best left tackles in the league. John Michael Schmidt's a year older. They got Evan Neal out of there. He was basically unplayable, and they decided, you know what? If you're not playable, we're not going to play you anymore. So, that part of it, okay. I could see the pass protection holding up a little bit better. But you've also got a defensive coordinator who, in theory, and we haven't really seen this in practice yet, but in theory, is capable of throwing some very exotic packages at you. He's capable of sending creative all-out blitzes at you, and Daniel Jones is not the kind of quarterback who's going to be able to adapt well to that. Daniel Jones doesn't process. He doesn't read. He doesn't make decisions quickly enough. So even if the offensive line is able to hold up, look for Mike McDonald to start sending some exotic blitz packages towards the Giants. And he doesn't have a receiver who can take the top off of the defense to make them pay for it. He doesn't really have the deep ball right now. If you watch that Cowboys game, you can see that the deep ball just is not there with him right now, probably because of all the injuries. And he just doesn't have the decision-making ability to overcome it. So let's maybe see that stuff. So what I'm looking to see a Seahawks team that plays without fear on defense, because there should be nothing to be afraid of. What are you afraid of, Wan'Dale Robinson? What are you afraid of, Jalen Hyatt? Like, even if Jalen Hyatt gets open deep, Daniel's not going to be able to get him the ball very much. So take that chance. I understand maybe you don't want to do it against Detroit. You don't have Nwosu, you don't have Mafe, you don't have Williams, you don't have Murphy. You still don't have Murphy, but you don't have Baker. You lose Julian Love around halftime. Okay, you don't want to get too crazy. You've got a bunch of guys on that defense who probably aren't that familiar with that stuff. We got some guys out there that haven't been with the team that long. Got some guys out there who just aren't that good. Think about a guy like Leonard Williams, who, before the season started, some of the offseason buzz was, oh, he's playing 6 different positions on the defense. He's doing nose tackle stuff. He's doing 5 tech stuff. He's 3 tech. He's this, he's that. He's on the edge. He's doing all this stuff. You don't have that guy. Think about how difficult it is to reach into the depths of your playbook when a guy like that is gone and you're replacing him with somebody who is probably very remedial in his understanding of this defense. So this week you got those guys back. Could be open season, and that's what I'm expecting. Now, on the other side, this Giants defense, they're not without some credibility here. I'll put it to you this way. They got a very talented front. I don't know how good it is, but it's a very talented front. Dexter Lawrence is good, right? He's one of the best in the game at what he does. He is as elite as it gets. Very destructive force in the middle. And as a Seahawks fan, I think you'd be justified in being a little bit afraid of what Dexter Lawrence could do to an interior offensive line that has been inconsistent so far. Of course, I think it's a great opportunity for those guys to prove that they've come a ways and they've improved, and that some of the things that we saw Monday night against Detroit are going to continue. We're going to see more competence from that group. Other than that, it's tough, right? Brian Burns, very good player, had a very good career with the Panthers, got traded for a boatload when he went to New York. They gave him a ton of money. He's been okay. I would say disappointing, but we know he's a good player. Him having 4 disappointing games to start his New York career does not change the fact that he's a dangerous player. And Kayvon Thibodeau, he's talented. He flashes. Of course, typically he only gives you like 1 good game a month. And honestly, he was pretty good last time he played against the Cowboys. So he maybe already had his good game for the next month. I don't know. But it's a difficult one to figure out, right? You're looking at a guy like Thibodeau. You know he was a top 10 pick. You know the talent. He was definitely a guy that I, as a Seahawks fan, had my eye on at 9 that year in 2022. Didn't get that far, but if he did, he was definitely, I think, a very reasonable option. You know the talent, but it really hasn't come together the way you would have expected, and he's just as likely to be invisible this weekend as he is to make big plays. So that's the front. Other than that, they got okay linebackers, I guess. Micah McFadden, kind of a fun player. They got a couple things going on up there that are certainly notable, but I'm not afraid of it. Defensive backfield, it depends on if they got Adoree Jackson, but it's interesting trifecta, right? You've got Banks, who, granted, hasn't been great so far in his career, but he is talented. And then you got Adoree Jackson, and you got Drew Phillips, who's been really nice for them so far. So it's a nice cornerback room, in theory, that should be able to at least give your elite receiver core a game. But, again, that should be a matchup that you should be able to win as the Seahawks. And ultimately, with the way Geno Smith is playing right now, with the way Geno Smith is overcoming even poor upfront protection, the way he's overcoming some of these drops, the way he's overcoming some of these offensive penalties, I think the Seahawks are still well above average in offensive penalties. Maybe they're not after that Monday night game. I haven't seen the stats since then, but he's overcoming a lot right now. It doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like it'll be a problem to overcome a somewhat talented Giants defense. So I think that's the formula, and I think if you stick to that formula, you're going to eventually grind out a relatively blowout win. It might be one of those games that is kind of sort of close in the fourth quarter, but you're never afraid of losing it. And then in the fourth quarter, at some point, things just break open, and you look up at the scoreboard at the end of the day, and you're like 30-10. It didn't feel like 30-10, because I think that defense is good enough for them to at least hang around. But I think the dam breaks eventually, and you get a decisive 3-score win. I do. So that's what I'm feeling with this game right now. Just stay in the pocket. Defense, feel free to get a little crazy. Go ahead and emulate go ahead and emulate what Minnesota does, because I don't think the Giants can make you pay for it. But offensively, just stay on track. And I don't see how this Giants team is going to be able to ultimately win. They're going to need a few fluky and freaky circumstances. They're going to need what we did against the Broncos, where you have the pick, you have the 2 safeties, you have the muffed punt. You have those things. That's what it took for Denver to even be in that game. That's what the Giants are needing this week. Because there is nothing with that Giants offense that should be able to move the ball consistently or score on this defense with the way that it's gotten its talent back this week from injury. So I'm feeling good, but I want to see it. You know, there's no part of me that is wanting to fast forward through this game. I know that's the mentality some fans are having. No, I want to see it all. I want to see every play. I want to see this team live up to expectations. I want to see this team do what most people expect them to do, what Vegas expects them to do. And I want to see how they do it. Because, like I was saying after that Detroit game, which we did lose, offensively, the methodology and the process of the way this is coming together is unlike anything I've seen since Holmgren was here. Yeah, we've seen great offenses in Seattle. We had a top 4 offense, a top 6 offense, and several top 10 offenses during the Russell Wilson era. We had good offenses. But it's been a long time since we had an offense that looked as in control as the offense that this Seahawks team is currently sporting. And there's one missing piece. It's that offensive line. So you got a great chance to prove that you really have turned the corner going up against this front, this very talented front. And that'll put you in great position to play that Thursday night game against San Fran and say, hey, the division's ours now. All right. So let's get this win. I will see you guys later today for the Husky stream. There will probably be another Seahawks video today. I think we're going to get practice squad elevations. And maybe I'll make another video before the game on Sunday, because we'll probably get final word on who's going to play, who's not going to play. Maybe we'll get confirmation on Mafe. Maybe we'll get confirmation on Drew Phillips and Adoree Jackson. But the way I see it, you should just be able to lay on them. If you are a Seahawks coach, you should be looking at this game as just a war of attrition. Over the course of 60 minutes, how are they going to hang with you? Maybe they can hang with you for 15 or 20 or 30. I don't think they're going to be able to hang with you for all 60. All right. I will see you guys later on. Go Hawks. Probably going to be on Twitch a little later before the game. Check me out over there. And, yeah, let's get this win. Go Hawks.